Hi, everybody. We are back for episode 2 of our reread of A Court of Wings and Ruin. As a quick reminder, this is a true reread, so we will be discussing all of ACOTAR and all 3 of Jamie's editions of ACOWAR. We are doing something slightly different for those of you that have been rereading with us. Usually we will start talking about Maasverse toward the end of the episode. We've realized we have too much to talk about, and it's just a whole lot all at once. So instead, we're going to keep this episode a safe space for just A Court of Thorns and Roses. So if this is the only series that you're fully caught up on, this is the place for you. And then directly after this episode, you'll have a second episode where if you are all caught up on Maasverse, that is all of Throne of Glass and all of Crescent City through Flame and Shadow, make sure that you've read absolutely everything. We'll have some Maasverse thoughts for you in another episode right after this, so join us for that. Episode 2, we are talking about chapters 17 to 34. I think I got that right, 17 to 34. I am just going to jump in on one of my absolute favorite characters that was introduced in this section, which wasn't at the beginning, or, well, it was kind of the end, but I just want to talk about Bryaxis. Like, we met one of my favorite spooky daddies in this section, and it just made my heart warm with his scariness and how much he helped Feyre. And I just wasn't sure if you guys had anything in particular that you wanted to say about him at this point, or them, him, them. No idea.
His name in it? Like, did we get their name? Like, I think
No.
they're still nameless, right?
Nameless right now.
Still nameless. Yeah, he does not have a name yet. But we did get the scene where Feyre meets him for the first time, and he does unspeakable things to the 2 Hybern flunkies that try to come steal Nesta. Specifically, they're looking for Nesta. And he, I think, at least holds off the two big baddies with being the spookiest thing that they can imagine. And then I think Rhys helps tear them apart. But yeah, Bryaxis, all he wants is some company, which I just love. I just love that he's just like, I want someone to come tell me about life.
Followed closely by his second request of a window.
Yeah, so like I don't think that we have the window request yet, right? I think that comes later, but I love, like, I don't know, there's just something special about Bryaxis. And again, because we said we're going to talk about all of ACOTAR, spoilers ahead, you've been warned. I love just imagining at this point, like, where is he? Like, after Silver Flames, like, where is Bryaxis? What is he up to? Just living his best life. I have to hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I loved it. I think I loved it more this time because I'm not as scared.
Yeah. You know, you're like, all right, no, Feyre, yeah, you're running right to a friend. Like, you got this.
Yeah. I definitely got the creepy, spooky vibes, but they were, like, friendly. It was just, like, a little misunderstood. And I love that, like, Cassian is scared of him.
Yeah. I can't remember for sure, because I know, like, the bog takes the form of the thing that you're most afraid of. But, like, isn't Bryaxis also like that? Like, he becomes the thing that you're, like, most scared of? Or is he just, like, super scary and we've never seen what he looks like?
I don't think you've ever seen what he looks like, because everyone was always like, close your eyes, look away.
Yeah, because I know, like, on the battlefield he comes out and I think he, like, just terrorizes people. He, like, is fear.
For some reason I always pictured him as, like, black mist, not as like a corporeal thing, but like as darkness. And maybe, like, I don't know, it'll be interesting seeing later the descriptions of how he works on the battlefield, because we definitely don't get, like, a visual description of it.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, because I keep wondering, like, what does he look like to Cassian? That Cassian's, like, so afraid of him. But yeah, I love that he just wants company. That's it. Just needed a shout out for my favorite creature. I think he's my favorite. I have to say, closely followed by my second favorite, Spooky Daddy, who is the Bone Carver. And we got to see more of him in this section, which I was really happy about.
Daddy?
Literal Bone Daddy. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Do you think he knew the Valg or the Dalgan? Daglin?
the Daglin.
Yeah.
I
Well, can we
mean,
talk about that here?
we can talk about the Daglin. I don't know if
Did I
he.
mess up? I'm so sorry. I totally forgot.
I don't
No,
think
you're
we can
fine.
talk about the dragon.
They're in Silver
Their
Flame.
Daglin we can talk about.
Yeah. He's been around since then. Because I
Yeah.
think that he talks about that he's been around since before Prithian was like Prithian, like before the Fae. Like he's been around for forever, so I'd have to assume that he was here 5,000 years ago. Whenever something happened that we've definitely heard about multiple times in Silver Flames, but yeah, he's been around for forever. I think he says that he was even around before Amren, because Amren also is clued into the fact that uh, the inner circle is trying to recruit big bad monsters to fight for their
Mhm.
cause. And she's a little not super thrilled,
So
but
he's before Amren, right?
I think he's older
That
than she is.
interesting.
Because we also learned that his sister is the Weaver. Um,
And
uh,
that their oldest brother is who?
Ho-Chai. Yeah, and theoretically the three of them are death gods or like death some god type thing, maybe death. And yeah, the carver seems to have a lot of information about Nesta, and we know that Nesta also has some death adjacent powers from Silver Flames. And yeah, I like the lore. I just really enjoy the lore in this part with the bone carver talking about like how way back they came into the world, and just like the rip
Same.
in the sky that they came through, and it's just all very cool.
I think I remember reading it for the first time and just it's going over my head. But now rereading it and knowing what we know now, like
Yeah.
Kochai and the Weaver, it's just interesting, and I'm more appreciative this time.
Yeah. Oh, the Weaver. Yeah. So I was excited to visit the Carver again. I don't know if I'm forgetting this. It definitely didn't happen in this section, but do you guys remember what the Carver looks like to Cassian? Like who he
I don't
comes.
remember if it was said.
Do we know?
I
Does he
don't
say?
I don't know. He definitely didn't say in this section, and I can't remember if we find out later or if we just never find out. But Cassian has a very visceral reaction when he walks into the Carver's prison cell. And it just immediately made me think of like, oh wait, what does Cassian see when he is looking at the Carver? And I don't know if we ever find out.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't know.
someone tell us.
If we know. And then I just like I had that like, does the Carver come to him as Bryaxis? Like
Or Nesta, the scariest thing of all.
the scariest thing of all, Nesta Archeron. Yeah, maybe. Speaking of Cassian and Nesta, they had some cute moments. I don't know if they like made a whole lot more character relationship progress in this section. I don't know what you guys think about them at this point.
I think there was just like a lot of build up. So there was like a lot of cute moments. I definitely have a favorite moment.
What's your favorite moment, Jamie?
It was like page 300 or something. And I think it was funny because it was when Lucian and Elaine are sitting down together for the first time and like trying to get to know each other, even though it was really, really awkward. And everyone around them is just like, try not to be obvious about listening in. And so Reese and Cassian are just coming back to the townhouse. Feyre spots them. And then in another room, I think Nesta and Amren are training, and Feyre can see that Cassian is kind of like peacocking, strutting around, like flexing. And Amren yells at Nesta Amren yells at Nesta because she's distracted. But it doesn't really tell you that it was Nesta, but you know that she was in the room with her.
Yeah, it's like, was Nesta distracted because of the stuff with Elaine and Lucian, or was she distracted because there was a very hot Fey man outside with his wings out?
Yep.
Oh, I wonder. Yeah. That's one of the other reasons that I love the scene with Bryaxis is just that moment where Feyre like sees the whole scene from Cassian's point of view, and just like Nesta running to him and going to him, like in that moment where she like forgets that she needs to be like big and bad and pretend like she doesn't care about him at all. I really like that.
Mhm.
I also love that moment for Nesta where she realizes that Feyre like was protecting her. Like I feel like that was I mean, I wish I could say it was a growth moment because she doesn't really grow from this point, but I think it's a moment at least of realization for her to acknowledge the bond that they have that she only admits she has with Elaine.
Yeah, I was there wasn't like more confrontation in that conversation because like Nessa was kind of pretty close about telling her why she never loved Feyre the same as Elaine.
Yeah, she got close,
She was close,
but
yeah.
and yeah, Elena, I agree with you. Like, while there really isn't like a whole lot of growth that comes from this exact moment, it is really nice because I think that like time and time again, Feyre shows us and like does show Nesta, whether Nesta like really takes it in or not, in these moments that she does really care about Nesta, like no matter how bad Nesta is to her and how obvious it is that Nesta has a favorite sister, like Feyre continues to, in really stressful moments like this, where you know that, you know, she's making a decision based off of what she truly feels, she's deciding to put herself in harm's way for the people she loves. Yeah. Anything else about Cassian and Nesta? Nesta, just Cassian?
I think it is a growth moment where Nesta's willing to help the cause. Like I love the fact that she's willing to help even if she still is not willing to like necessarily go outside of her comfort zone to help, but she's doing the bare minimum here, which we love
She is.
to see.
She's doing something, right? Like
Yeah.
something is being done. Even just like her being at the library to try to like help out everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's nice to see. Um I hate to bring this up, but I know this is something that has been talked about like in the whole Sarah J. Maas community. And I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on it because I don't think we've ever talked about it, probably because we don't want to. And I don't know, like, I don't think there are any answers or anything. I just needed to bring up because it was in this section on page 315 in chapter 30, the lines where Elaine basically, we think, possibly predicts Cassian's death. And like, do we think that, you know, when he says it'll take more than that to kill me, and Elaine says, no, it will not. Like, do we think, like, how do we feel? Do we actually think that this is her predicting his death? Like, is it a possible, like, this is what she sees now, but we can change it? Like, what do you guys feel?
I don't know enough about her powers to understand like this is what we know for now, but it can change. Like I just think we need Elaine's book to fully understand what she's going through and what the implications are. But I prefer to choose no, that does not mean in death for Cassian.
What do you think, Jamie?
I think it's possible because like it's not him being tortured, right? By the way, can I just say I love creepy Elaine?
So
I love
good.
creepy. I love how creepy she is in this. Um because later, you know, if you read the book,
Back there.
she does save Cassian and Nesta by
She
distracting
does.
Hybern. So, but I don't know if she saw it and like it was gonna happen that way, and then finally when it does happen or right before she you know does something about it to change it.
That's a
So
really good thought. Like, is what she is possibly foretelling now, like what happens at the end of this book, and does she help circumvent it? I think that's really good because I definitely do not want to argue for Cassian dying. Like, I know that is a criticism of these books that like we really haven't had like a really big character die in any of them, and like ooh like pulling punches and stuff. I'm okay with it. Me personally, I might like don't kill Cassian.
right. I mean, because like he later on we do find that like he would have died for Nesta.
Yeah.
So that could be like her seeing it that way.
Yeah, I think that's a good theory.
In other news, I do love the moment of realization when they figure out that Elaine's not just crazy. Like that she's not losing her mind because of what happened in the cauldron. There's an actual, like, she's just trying to communicate how she can the information that she has gained.
Mm-hmm. Are we 100% on the Elaine is a seer train? Like, do any of us have any doubts that it's just coincidence? Okay, I just wanted to. I'm sure that some people have that theory. I do not. I think that she definitely has seer powers. I also really enjoyed who specifically is the person that recognizes it, because it's Azriel who eventually is like, guys, like she's a seer, like this is, and like, is it just that he is smart and adept and like has recognized the signs of a seer? Probably. Is it that he can see into her and has a better idea of what's going on inside of her? Maybe. Thoughts, feelings?
I think there are a lot of moments that support Jamie's Elaine Azriel goals.
I definitely tabbed the shit out of the moment where she says that his hands are beautiful. Just love it. Because we all know that's what she was talking about.
There are just a lot of beautiful, like very small moments between them. They're not like super obvious in which like they're professing feelings for each other. It's more of like the little hints. So like the one where they're both sitting out in the garden or something and just like comfortable silence. Like he's relaxing, you know, reading reports and she's just like enjoying the garden and stuff. Like that's just, I don't know, it's just really sweet to me.
Yeah, he takes a lot of time to make sure that she's comfortable, which I like, and like keeps her company, but in a very quiet way, which I think she really needs.
I think it's really telling that Feyre is noticing those things between them. Although I was sad at one point that like no one was really paying attention to Elaine. She's saying all these things and Feyre's like kind of like just thinking that she's crazy.
Mm.
I do think there's a moment where Elaine's like, no one has listened to me. Like, there's a moment where she's saying, like, no one is listening to me. And then, like, an acknowledgement that Azrael is the one listening that I felt was pretty, I don't know, intentional. But I still don't think it's going to happen. So.
Yeah, and I want to get back to like talking about as Elaine, maybe Elaine and Lucian, but I think, you know, before we talk more about that, because obviously like a big community fan feeling is that Elaine is like the subpar sister. And I think that that's just everybody not really paying attention enough to what is happening with her in the background. And I think that will really change when we get her book and people are forced to pay attention to Elaine. But I think that this section in particular gave us a lot of like, Elaine has really cool powers and like she's dealing with stuff, like not just the trauma of what happened to her. And then like also like the trauma of like leaving her entire life behind, but also like figuring out these new powers that she has and like what that means. And I think she needs someone to like help her sort of bring it all together, to be able to be a more functioning person.
Mm-hmm. I think Feyre said this in this section where there's different types of strengths, and I love that quote.
Yeah.
Just don't ask me where it is because I can't find it at the top of my head.
No. Yeah. I think we all know that quote. Love that quote. It's
I think it was towards Nesta, but I feel like it could go, you know, for any character in the series.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think that she was saying it about Elaine because it's in this section that she's talking to Rhys about like, do we think the Cauldron made a mistake in like making Elaine and Lucian mates? Because like look at her and Azriel. Like she brings it up. She's like, why can't it be Azriel? Like he's so sweet and he's so kind with her. And what if like, and they talk about, you know, what it is to reject a mating bond and all of that. And I think it's in that section, maybe not, but I think she is talking about Elaine and like there's a, like, some people have a quiet power, like a,
Yeah.
they can be quietly strong, and it's just different.
Even I think I can't remember who said this, but I had it highlighted. I think it was Nessa that said this. She says there are many types of strength beyond the ability to wield a blade and end lives. Amarin told me that yesterday.
Yeah. Yep.
I love that. I love
Yep.
that. Not everyone needs to, wield a sword or something.
Right. And like, we get cool badass Feyre moments in these first 3 books, which I love. I think they're, we've talked about how there's like the whole people aren't happy that Feyre, sort of like starts to take a back seat and like be less like physically badass, and is, more ruling the Night Court. Then we get Nesta, who's like very physically badass, which is awesome. But I'm excited for like Elaine to have her like quiet badassery. Like, just be badass and maybe not wield a sword, but be just as cool.
Yeah, in their own way.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on Elaine or Elaine and Azriel?
It's on Elaine and Lucian.
Because I would love to talk about Elaine and Lucian.
Go on.
Y'all know I can't make up my mind, honestly. And I think that, sometimes we get really excited about like the glimmers of like, oh, like, I think this person would be perfect with this person. And the thing that I'm most excited about for Elaine's book is just to see it happen. Like, I'm excited just to be on the ride and just like see the beautiful unfolding of whatever occurs. But like, in rereading this section, I just like remind myself of those moments that she has with Lucian, where he is like also being very gentle with her, like in moments where he could be like bugging her to have a conversation with him, or like trying to push her to like help her make a decision. Like, he will just sit there for like an hour and not say anything to try to help her, like when he's trying to help figure out what's wrong with her. So I love that about him. And I especially love when he is going to leave to go find Vasa. Like, there's that moment where they say that she was about to take a step toward him and he left. Like, do you guys think that's what it is? Like, was she going to say something to him? Is it a coincidence?
I think I reread that a few times, trying to understand like, why did she take that step? Because it parallels like when he took that step in Highburn towards her when she was, going through the cauldron. And I wonder if it has something to do with like their mating bond and the tugging. Maybe he like unintentionally tugged her or something, but I'm not really sure.
Interesting. I feel like I walked away from this section super convinced it's a fake mating bond. Not like super convinced, but like
think, yeah. There were a few lines that like had me so sus. Like when I think Feyre was in his mind and he says that there's a thread, right? Like there's a thread, there's a mating bond there. And it was almost like he was trying to convince himself, like, oh, it's real. It's actually real. But then we find out that he never gets to the end of that thread. And then Elaine goes, it's tied to her rib. Like, that's so sus to me. Why is it tied? Why is it not like, an unbreakable chain or something that's tied to your chest or your soul? And it's so interesting because it's when you compare it to how Feyre explains the mating bond to her, it's always like, even Maja, like a mating bond is like a bridge between souls.
Yeah.
And when Feyre describes the mating bond with her in Greece, she says it's an unending thread or something like that.
It's definitely a very suspicious way to describe it.
Yeah. And like all of that, completely agree. Like, it's phrased so similarly, but like just different enough that it's like someone set it up to look like that, but it's not. So what got me was when Feyre's in Lucian's mind, which, like, why is she in Lucian's mind? Like, why are we getting this scene? Yeah, she wants to like see like Lucian's intense with her, but like as a reader, I'm like, but what is that the purpose? Like, is that why we get this very extended scene? And at one point she's talking, like Lucian's like talking to himself, and his mind starts thinking about Jasminda, like it drifts back to him, and even the line is, even as shame washed through him, the words, the sense chanted, "Mine, you are mine, and I am yours, mate." And it's like the sense chanted, the word, like who has put this chant into it? Like that's not how mating is described. It's never like sure they're tied together, like I understand that, but like the word sense like gave me someone set something up to look like a mating bond,
That's
which
an interesting take.
That's so cool, Elena. I did not catch that.
Yeah.
I don't, and I can't go further into what that reminds me of because it would be a spoiler, but
It's like
Come to our
like it's
Maasverse
there.
conversation.
It's like the
um
mating bond is there, but it's not like a true one. Cause like it kind of has like the signs, right? Like he has like that visceral reaction to her, like wanting to protect her, wanting to have like, like taste her and smell her and all of that. But
yeah,
it's so sus.
there is a bond and something has like made him obsessed with her. Like there's no doubting the fact that he feels like it's a true mating bond,
Yeah.
but I just think the terminology and the like way he's thinking about her isn't the way we've seen mating bonds portrayed in the past.
Yeah, like he's protective, possessive. Like when he was like growling at Azrael or something, and Reese goes, "Don't worry, Azrael's not the ravishing type." I don't think he knows him very well.
No, he doesn't. Reese is not perfect. Yeah, all of what you guys are saying, I did not catch those specific moments, and I love it because it all like helps line up with my personal favorite theory that Lucian is meant to be with Vasa. And I think like for me, I see a lot of that in these moments. Because what I love to theorize on, and this rabbit hole is probably way too deep, and this is not real, and SJM's just gonna make like Lucian and Elaine work or something, but I love that Elaine keeps having these premonitions about this Firebird that we're all pretty sure is Vasa. And I think that on first read, it's like, oh, okay, she had these premonitions of Vasa because Vasa is going to help them in the war. Vasa didn't like do a whole lot. Like she did, but she wasn't like the crux of being able to win the war at the end. Like she wouldn't be my choice. And I think that we get a lot of little lines from Elaine in this, which I won't go and like pick them out, but they're all the lines of like how sad the Firebird is and like all these things that are happening with her. And I just wonder if a lot of what Elaine is foreseeing now is stuff that we have not seen yet. And if that is stuff that is going to happen in the next book, where I imagine we're going to get a lot more of Elaine, obviously, but probably also a lot more of like Vasa going back to Kochai and like what does that look like? And Lucian still trying to figure out who he is himself. And I just wonder if part of what has clicked between Lucian and Elaine is that Elaine is the reason that they find Vasa. And like, is it that Elaine, like Lucian feels like it's the mating bond because Elaine is the thing that brings him to his mate? I don't know, but I think there's a lot of interesting imagery and like really cool lines in there that could lead it to like, oh, that's why. Like that was the only way that Lucian was going to find his person was through Elaine.
Yeah,
I think it
I'm looking.
speaks to there being a greater power that's kind of plucking at things here that we might not know about yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Reese and Feyre have that conversation about like who chooses. Is it actually the cauldron? Is it something else? How does this work and why? I
And
think
to
there's a lot.
circle back to my favorite theory, I don't think Lucian and Elaine make sense because of everything discussed here. I think Az is going to be with Gwyn, which leaves Elaine open for a love story.
For someone else.
No one. No one.
Or no
And I
one.
think we'll dig into that more in the next episode when certain people get kidnapped.
After a certain High Lords meeting and a cauldron trickery scene, which I think are both in the next section. We'll see.
I would think
But
so.
yeah. Yeah. Elaine's a badass. I'm so excited for the next book, but I think that it's a lot of fun to see her power start to really manifest itself in this section, and I'm gonna pay close attention to what comes out of Elaine's mouth. What are the double meanings of what she's saying? But yeah. So Elena, you kind of touched on Feyre going into Lucian's mind, and something that I think is also really interesting in this section is just the continued discussion between Feyre and Rhys about like what is it to be rulers? Like they are the rulers of the Night Court, and like, you know, when do you make the decisions that you do? Do you make bad decisions? And I just wanted to mention really quickly, because I know we talked about it a lot in the last section, but I think that in this section, it really continues the idea of like Rhys does make mistakes, Feyre makes mistakes, and it's like they're not human, but like, you know, they make mistakes, and they're always doing like what is best for their people and the place that they live. And especially when Rhys makes the choice to work with Eris and then give Kier a whole lot of access into Valaris, I think really puts into the spotlight how sometimes he thinks he's doing the right thing, and he is doing the right thing, but maybe in the wrong way. And I just thought this was an interesting section to see all of that play out.
I almost forgot that it all happened. And it's a good reminder because then it kind of justifies how he reacted in other books. And I guess Silver Flames too. He made a note. He was like, you know, I'm gonna continue to make bad calls because he's not perfect. And I was like, that's appreciative.
Yeah. He's just very honest, and also like I love that
Yeah.
he and Feyre are just like, we will always work together, and like we'll have open communication, and like, you know, never be afraid to tell the other one when we think that they're making the wrong call. And I like that for the two of them as well.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of like foreshadowing too, that he'll continue to do this.
Yeah.
Other news, Amryn for president? Because after Rhys did that and Moore was so upset, Amryn was like, sure, he can make these promises, but we could go murder them and then it's fine.
That was funny. Yeah, and like clearly, you know, Rhys put things into place ahead of time to make sure that, you know, basically Kier and the bad people of the Court of Nightmares can't like wreak havoc in Valaris. So it's like, you know, he thought ahead, but at the same time it is hurtful for Moore. So I do feel for her. I think one of the most interesting things for me in this part, bringing Eris into the story, is like the question that I know we've asked ourselves many times, the community is still questioning, is like, what is Eris's deal? Like, what is his story?
Do we trust him? Like, do we or do we not trust his I'm actually the good guy of the Autumn Court vibe?
Me personally, I do. And I think that there is some weird twist that he alludes to about like,
He
if
keeps
you
alluding to it, yes.
yeah, we find out I mean, for sure, if you trust what Eris is saying, we find out for sure that Eris was instrumental in making sure Lucian did not die. Like, he was instrumental in getting him to Tamlin to save him over the whole Jesminda thing. So, like, that's great. Thanks, Eris. But, like, he alludes to, like, what his role was and what his reasonings were with the thing with Moore. And that just, I don't know if it's as simple as, like, Eris realizing that she wasn't happy, so what he did was to help get her out of being married to him. Like, was he doing it just for that, or was there, I think there's something else. There's something else there that we don't know about yet, that Eris was doing it for the right reasons.
Did you get a hint of Moore's truth power?
They mentioned it again. Feyre's like, oh yeah, her like truthy
So,
truth powers.
Yeah, there was, I don't know if you guys caught on, but like when it was revealed that Elaine was a seer, Moore confirmed it.
Yes.
Looking at her or something. And it just made me wonder, like, if she had that conversation with Eris, right? Like, you know, and Eris like made that confession, why didn't she use her power then to confirm that if he was, you know, telling the truth or not, right?
And like, is it just like tricky wordplay? Like, is it just that Feyre also doesn't really know? Like, I don't think Feyre knows what Moore's power truly is, but she's like, oh yeah, Moore's power of truth, and like she did a quick body scan on Elaine, and like, yep, is a seer. But like, is that really what we're supposed to take away from that? That like Moore, because if so, Moore needs to use her power a lot more because there's a lot of secrets that we don't know yet. So I don't
Right.
know. I don't know on either
What's
of
the
these
difference?
things.
What's the difference between using her truth powers versus, you know, his techniques to getting the truth, right?
Exactly.
Techniques being torture.
Yes.
Getting the truth out of a different way.
Yeah, right. It's like if Moore had a true truth power, like she could scan people and know the truth, and Az wouldn't need to torture people. They just like put Moore in there and 10 minutes later they'd have their answers. So like it can't be that, right? It can't be that simple.
Yeah. Like, I wonder how it is. Like, is it like an aura or something that she just sees or something and knows that the person is telling the truth or lying? Or is it like something that she has to like turn on and actually see if they're being truthful?
Or is it just that
Okay.
Feyre was like, yeah, Moore's truth power. And also Moore was like, yep, she's a seer. And Moore's over there just being like, yeah, all adds up. Like, from what I know of seers, seems like she probably is one. Like, does it even have anything to do with some sort of like supernatural, like magic-y power? Maybe not.
I
Don't
want.
they all turn to Moore to look at her? Aren't they all like, Moore?
I think Feyre does. I don't know if like the whole room like at once turns to Moore. Like I think it's just it might be like creative wordplay of like her power and but I don't know, guys.
Well, back to Moore and Eris. I don't know if we talked about this, but I did see this like online, this theory that Moore and Eris could have had a mating bond.
Whoa.
And to get out of it, this is just a theory like that I saw. To get out of it, like and assuming that Eris is the only one that knows of the mating bond, and maybe Moore doesn't know. And then so he did all this to get her out of to help get her out of it.
Wow.
Interesting.
What do
In
you
my
guys?
head, I figured it was gonna be like some like weird ploy to get Moore, if she's so special and her power, secret power is so special, to get her into the fall court, and then they had a deal with Kochai to like turn her into one of those firebirds. Like, I don't know. Like, it just
Whoa.
feels like it has to connect somehow to like the larger story arc that's happening, but maybe not.
No, I do really think that Eris has like there is something there. I don't know what it is. I genuinely I don't really even have a guess. I just think that it has to be more complex than just like Eris being a good person and wanting to help Moore out. Like I think there's got to be more behind it.
I'm still a little sus of Eris. Like, do I think everything up to this point has had reasons? Yes. But that doesn't necessarily intrinsically mean he's going to be an ally forever. Like, he just gives me is in it for his own reasons vibes, which means, like, isn't going to be friend necessarily.
Yeah. Well, and we know that Silver Flames or Wings and Ruin ends in a weird place for Eris. It's Silver Flames, right? Ends in a
Solar flames.
slightly weird place. So we're gonna talk more about Eris. More comes down the pike, but yeah, this is like the moment where he alludes to the fact that there was something else going on, and I just had to bring it up. Do I know the answer? No. Come to the Discord. Tell us what you think.
Did you guys notice how many times it had to be at least 3 the like subtle hints to like Eris's skin tone being different from Lucian's? Like, oh, he's so pale compared to his brother. Like, we're just starting to build up the Lucian's dad isn't Baron like clues, and I definitely missed all of them on first read, but this time every time they mention Eris, Feyre's like, and he's so pale.
The number of times that they mention how Lucian is darker, it just like didn't really like it makes me wonder like how I didn't catch it sooner. And I don't know if it's because I just didn't like put down that Helion has such darker skin. And I mean like we don't really learn that Helion and Lucian's mom had like a thing until later, but Yeah, it's like so obvious that there's something different with Lucian. Even I like the mention of as Lucian's gonna go find Vasa, he's like, oh yeah, somebody might need to break her curse. And I'm like, oh, maybe someone who can break magic spells from his dad's power might be able to do something for this Firebird lady. I don't know. Maybe.
Good catch. And maybe we just like summed it up to him being in the sun in the spring court all the time. That this is
Oh.
a natural tan.
Sure, I just glazed over it, but like literally 3 or 4 times. Like every time they mentioned one of them, they're comparing.
Yep, every time. Oh, Helion.
Things we notice in our reread.
I also loved the mention of Helion's response to the High Lords meeting and how he definitely mentioned like, yeah, if y'all want to get together for an orgy. Just like, oh, Helion. He's a funny guy.
Not that kind of High Lords meeting, man.
Like, we might have to get down to business first before we get down to business. I just want you to like, keep your put your business socks on first. We got some stuff to talk about. Oh, yeah. Oh, Lucian. I would love to bring up the fact that in this section Azrael starts to teach Feyre how to fly, which are just like some of like the cutest little moments of just like him being like this, older brother figure to Feyre. And just like they have a really nice bonding moment where he says more words than he's ever said in any book combined times 10 and like tells her a whole story about Nefel, who is now part of like the whole ACOTAR lore, saving Miriam, even though her wings were like they weren't as big and didn't work as well as most of the seraphim. She overcame that physical not even disability, just physical difference, and saved the day. And I really like that Azrael like takes the time to tell her that story.
Yeah, that is a really cute moment between the two of them. I also loved when Feyre is too injured to practice one morning and she sends Cassian and Az a message and Cassian comes to yell at her and Az comes with salve.
The tough love and the soft love. Yeah. Yeah, it's so great. There's sometimes where I catch myself, it not like being bored or anything, but you get so many like fun quiet moments of just like the inner circle just like doing cute inner circle things in this moment, like in this section. And I think it's nice to have those moments where it's like they're not like happy and complacent because obviously they have this war looming, but they're still finding time to like spend with each other and make it all worth it. Yeah. I'm sure there are a bajillion things we forgot to talk about. I can't think of a single one right now. I know. I think that's it. I think that's all we got. Let us know what we forgot. We know there's at least 5 things. Come over to the Discord, chat with us about how you're enjoying this reread. And next up will be our Maasverse thoughts on these same chapters of ACOWAR. So if you're all caught up, head on over and you can start that right now. But we'll see you over there. And episode 3 will be out next week. So we'll see you then. Thanks, guys. Bye.